Welcome to the Functional Medicine Radio Show with your host, Dr. Carri Drzyzga, known internationally as the Functional Medicine Doc. Dr. Carri is committed to helping patients find the root cause of their health problems and fixing the cause with natural treatments so they can feel normal again. Dr. Carri is the founder of Functional Medicine Ontario and is the author of the hit book, Reclaim Your Energy and Feel Normal Again. Please welcome your host, Dr. Carri Drzyzga.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the Functional Medicine Radio Show, the only internet radio show dedicated to giving you real solutions to improve your health. Not only are they real solutions, but they're natural solutions as well, because as you know, the one and only true wealth you have is your health. I'm your host, Dr. Carri Drzyzga, the Functional Medicine Doc, and I'm committed to helping you find the root cause of your health problem, fix the cause with natural treatments, so you can feel normal again and live your life to the fullest. Just a quick bit of housekeeping before I introduce today's special guest. I'm happy to announce that I'm working on my next book. The title is Reclaim Your Digestive Health and Feel Normal Again, Fixing the Root Cause of Your GI Distress with Natural Treatments. Now this book should be ready later this year, so keep an eye out for it. Okay, that's it for our housekeeping, so let's get started. I am so very excited about today's show because my special guest is Tommy Rosa. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Tommy Rosa is a spiritual counselor who helps people conquer their fear of death. In 1999, Tommy was a victim of a hit-and-run accident which left him in a coma for several weeks. Now, during this time, he had a near-death experience where he was taken to heaven and met a master teacher. His teacher imparted 8 health revelations that are the foundation for vibrant health and well-being. These teachings are corroborated by Dr. Sinatra, an esteemed cardiologist and co-author of the book Health Revelations from Heaven and Earth. Tommy, thank you so much for being my special guest today on this episode of the Functional Medicine Radio Show.
Well, Carrie, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, Tommy, we had Dr. Sinatra on the radio show that was back in May, and after our interview, I spoke to him for a few minutes before I let him go, and he said, "Oh, Carrie, you have to call Tommy and have him on your show." And so here we are.
Divine intervention.
Yes, as always.
Yes.
Okay, so your story is so interesting. So can you help share your story and what happened to you after that hit-and-run accident? Can you explain the experience that happened to you?
Oh, sure. One evening, I was going to get a loaf of bread at the neighborhood store. After work, I like to unwind, take a little bit of a walk, and come back home. And whatever I might have needed in the store, I could get it, if it was milk, bread, or something small. But it was a way to get out and relax after work. And that evening, I went across the street to go to the store, and I got ran over by a car going 40 miles an hour. And I was pronounced dead when I was 40 years old on the street. And then they shocked me back to life 3 minutes later, and I was in a coma for almost 2 weeks. But during that time, I was traveled through this beautiful white light with pinks and blues and a persistent hum of an om, almost an om you would get when you chant, or in yoga and stuff like that. And the other important thing was it smelled like frankincense. Between the frankincense oil and the om sound, it made me feel really peaceful and very calm, even though I didn't know what I was doing as an experience. I was traveling face first, like time-lapse photography as it streaks by you. And it went on for several minutes. Then all of a sudden, I end up on my back in a room looking up at the ceiling, and I'm totally paralyzed, and I can't move an inch. And I really didn't get fearful about it, or even scared what's going on with me. I just stood there in total peace. Minutes later, I was able to stand up, and when I stood up, to my own surprise, I wasn't touching the floor. I was hovering. This starts to be a little more concerning when you start to hover.
Yeah.
Something's got to be different. And as I put my hand through my right arm, I could not believe it. I could see myself, but there's no mass. I felt very light. and I can still see, hear, and think. So what's going on here? And all of a sudden, in front of me, I see this beautiful ball of white light coming forward, and I really couldn't look at it too well because it was so bright. So I kept turning my head away. And like the last 3 minutes of it coming, I could finally look and see what it was. And what it was a man with long brown hair, brown eyes, a beautiful white robe, bare feet, and he's hovering also. But he also had a halo on his head. And then he stood there for a minute, and his next words were, "Hello, Tommy." I said to myself, how could that guy do that? He didn't move his lips. He talked to me in my brain telepathically. Then I knew there was something cool about this place. So, the next thing I said to him was, why am I here? And he says, here to learn about love, life, and health. And my answer to him was, why me? And he said to me, why not you? And I believe now that everyone has a near-death experience, goes through what they're going through with that experience, to come back with information or an experience to help people on Earth. And I'm sure when you have a near-death experience, if you ask that question, why am I here to learn it, everyone will say, why not you? Interesting, right?
Very interesting. So can you tell us a little bit about what the teacher taught you and the 8 health revelations?
First thing he tells me is that each and every one of us are all connected to each other and to God. Separation is only an illusion of the mind. So, when you have a bad day in your office, you're going to affect other people in your office. If you're having a good day, you're going to raise the vibration of other people. So, what would I rather do? Be positive or be negative? I'd rather be positive, so I raise my own vibration for good health. Because when you think negatively, you lower your vibration, and funguses, metals, and toxins, and pesticides, chemicals, and parasites all get stronger because you jeopardize your immune system and you think negative or do things that aren't good for your body. And that was really interesting to hear that, because I never really gave it much thought about how we're all connected. But if you think about it, 9/11 happened. What happened? Everybody went to church to pray, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was like a massive amount of people in minutes after it happened. Every church was full. Well, how about the Chilean miners who were rescued? The whole world was behind that too. And that was a positive thing. So we have to really keep in mind that our thoughts are an action, and that we want to keep our thoughts positive so we don't affect our health. I came up with an affirmation, and it's called, positive attitude will bring positive results. There'll be no room for negativity in my life now from this day forth. I say it every day because it's so important. Because I see when you're negative, you think about things. First of all, if you have a fear about it, which is the next one, you're going to attract it to yourself. So now, after he tells me this, he takes me on this journey through this beautiful countryside where there's millions of flowers on rolling hills and trees and beautiful clouds with all different variations of colors in the clouds. So total peace, rainbows. It was breathtaking. And the colors here are so much vibrant than the ones we have here on Earth. Because everything emanates love there. The grass, the air, the clouds. You can feel love coming off everything, unconditional love, which is so breathtaking, beautiful. So the next thing he says to me, we're going to go on a trip. And I said, okay. And in 2 seconds, we go through this little tunnel of light, and we're in the ocean. And now this ocean is so beautiful. I've been on the Atlantic and Pacific, and there's nothing that can compare to this ocean. Turquoise, beautiful blue. You see the coral reefs down below, 1,000 feet deep. The whales, the turtles, the stingrays, the beautiful fish. It's just breathtaking. So I turned to my companion, who's standing on the water, by the way, and I'm treading water. And I go to ask him a question, and he left me there. So now I say, great, I meet this guy now, he leaves me here in the middle of the ocean, I'm treading water. What's going to happen next? When I get tired, I can't stand up here. Floating. So next thing I see in the distance, it looks like boats. And I say to myself, I'm taking that boat. Remember from Sunday school, there was a story about God sends the boats to a guy who's on top of his roof and he's going to drown. And he don't take the boat because it wasn't God who came for him. But God sent the boat. And he gets to heaven and the guy says, hey, silly, I sent you the boat. Why did you not take it? He says, because God wasn't there. He says, I went through the person. That's what I did. So I said, I'm taking that boat. So they got closer and closer, and they weren't boats. They were great white sharks with monstrous teeth. And I started panicking. And my heart's beating in my chest. And I'm trying to race away with the doggy paddle and swimming away. And all of a sudden in my head, my teacher says, remember, have no fear. And being from the Bronx, I gave him a smart aleck answer and said, easy for you to say you're not here. I'm going to die here. You're not. So I said, you know what? I can't outrun them, so I'm just going to give up here and just think about that beautiful white light that brought me here. And I thought about that beautiful white light. When I thought about it, I just kept thanking God for this beautiful experience of that white light. Minutes later, opened my eyes and all the sharks were gone. And my teacher appeared to me standing on the water again. He says, lesson number 1. And whenever you talk to anybody, you should tell them this story because it's one of the most important lessons of the entire life you're going to have. I said, what is it? He says, whatever you are afraid of in life, you will attract it to yourself. Whatever it may be. If it has to be about not having financial freedom, if it's not about having a loved one, or a healthy child, or a healthy body, you're going to attract that to yourself. It's called the law of attraction. So, if you didn't have fear of sharks, that never would have happened to you. Very interesting, right?
Yeah, and I've heard that before, that you attract what you fear.
Mm-hmm.
So have no fear.
Fear is just the false evidence of appearing real, because I tell people when they come to me with fear about death, I says there's no sense to fear death because we don't die. We leave the body, which is just a structure to be here, but our spirit and soul lives on forever. And that going through that tunnel of light, what that really is to raise the vibration of the soul so it can get into heaven. I thought that was interesting to find that out. So everyone goes through the light, because that's the way it's going to raise the vibration of your soul to get to heaven. Interesting, huh?
Very interesting.
So the next thing is, we leave the ocean, and he takes me to this beautiful mountain, and he has me jump off the mountain with him. As I'm jumping off the mountain, at this point, I don't care if I live or die because I know I'm in a total peaceful place. And at the end of the trip, he leaves me halfway down, of course, and I'm free-flowing, face first down. And all of a sudden, 20 feet before I hit the floor, he stops my body and turns it to lay down on my feet to hover over the ground without getting hurt. But I gave up on the fear, so nothing happened. Then he takes me to this beautiful room, and in this room is Archangel Michael, which was breathtaking to see him, and he explains to me how he works for everyone in the world and universes for repelling negative energy. And he gives me a prayer, which is in the book too. And then I meet my father and my grandmother, who I really didn't recognize right away because they're age 33. That's the age when you pass older than 33, that's the age you go back to. So I'm happy with that because I look pretty good at 33. So, and there's also children there too. So if the kid passes away at 1 or 2, he's 1 or 2 years old, walking around, hovering. So that's pretty amazing to see that too. There's animals. There's a complete, total imaging of what Earth's like there, but there is no bodies. It's all spiritual. And there's no negative energy because it's heaven. And that what makes you feel so good too, because you have all that love constantly being poured on you. And that's what I thought was so cool, because I felt so light and happy.
So Tommy, can you tell us more about the health revelations that you learned?
Yeah. The next one was grounding. And he says to me, he says, God gives the people ways to heal and they don't use it. And I said, what do you mean? He says, God's given a way to heal you without even costing you any financial money or anything. I said, what is it? He says, it's simple as taking your shoes off and putting your feet on the earth, or going to hug a tree, or be in nature. That's all healing to you. And I said, why? He says, because the earth has a higher vibration than your body does, because it's being always pumped up with energy from God. And when you sit on it or lay on it, you're getting all that love coming into you, which helps detoxify you and also makes you have thinner blood, lower blood pressure, and that's all benefits for us. So that's what I thought was really amazing, how grounding works. Do you ever ground?
Actually, I did a podcast interview with Raspberry, and I think that was about near the time when I also interviewed Dr. Sinatra, and both of them talked about grounding. And Razzie particularly was talking about radiation and these smart meters and how much bad energy they give off. Anyways, so after I'm done with all the interviews, I go running outside to see, okay, on my house, is there a smart meter? Well, I live in a townhouse complex, and I'm on the end unit. So, okay, so there's a smart meter, but all the smart meters are right there on the end of my house, and they're right under my bed, as a matter of fact.
Oh, boy.
And I said, oh, crap, that's not good.
I live in a townhouse, too, and I have a smart meter there also.
So there's 4 of them right under where we sleep, my husband and I. So immediately I ordered a grounding sheet for us to sleep on at night. And so we're trying to practice getting more grounding in our life to try and help our health.
And do you have a concrete floor in your house?
No, it's wood floor.
Okay. If you had a concrete floor, you can ground on that too.
So my basement, I could kind of...
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good to know.
What you could do is take a sheet and go downstairs, lay in the basement floor. And that'd be good groundings too.
Yeah, because I was wondering, especially in Canada, how do you ground during the winter time?
That's the way to do it.
When there's snow outside. Yeah, and actually I just had a patient in my office yesterday, and we were talking about, okay, how can we help him with his fatigue, and his cortisol levels are awful, and we're working on his diet, and we're working on using specific herbs. And I said, you know what, this might sound kind of weird, but just hear me out on this. So I explained to him the concept of grounding, and he said, oh yeah, Dr. Carri, you're right. I need to do that more. I do need to go out on my back 40 and just walk around in my bare feet. So many people are open to it once you it's about reminding them, right, Tommy?
Oh, yeah, because we don't know. We forget. We're taught all this before we come back. There's school in heaven, as he calls it, the University of Knowledge. And when we're there, we learn everything that's going to help us here, but we forget a lot of it. It's our intuition that gets jeopardized here because of all the chemicals and the funguses and the metals. And the radiation all affects what's called the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is where our intuition comes from.
Yeah.
So we can keep that clean, then we're going to have a more intuition. And that's what I work on myself all the time, because my intuition is what gives me the answers.
Okay, so far to kind of recap, you said we got to stop the stinking thinking.
Yes.
I forget who said that originally, but I learned that in chiropractic school. Stop the stinking thinking. You mentioned the affirmation, and then right off the bat you said, "Why me?" And then your answer is, "Well, why not me?"
That's exactly right, because each and every one of us are loved by God unconditionally, no matter what we say, do, and think. There's one thing God cannot do, and that is stop loving us. no matter what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so life-changing for me when I heard that. Because that gives me total peace that I'm in his hands and protection.
Hey, Tommy, can I ask you, what was your spiritual or your religious background before your near-death experience?
I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
And I was going to church on holidays only, but I was more spiritual. I had more spiritual beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Because religion puts fear into people, especially the Catholic Church, because you have to have confession with the priest, and it was a lot of control things that I saw, and I wasn't very comfortable with that. Because you can go right to God and ask for forgiveness. You don't need to go through a priest. And they haven't really told us that we are God. We all have a beautiful frequency of God in us. And that frequency is different in each and every soul there is. And that's what I learned also, that everything's a frequency. Even the air has a frequency. Even the water has a frequency. So even negative things have frequencies, like funguses, metals, bacteria. So when they get into our body, those frequency numbers lower our vibration. So we want to raise our vibration. So if we can use homeopathics, are really great because you can use the frequency number of the toxin and get rid of it. Do you use any of that when you're in your business?
Yeah, actually in my practice I do use a little bit of homeopathy. I used to use it a lot years ago, and I've kind of gotten away from it. So again, going back to just like the reminders of all the good things that are out there. So yeah, using homeopathics, that they're a vibration to help with using healing vibrations to help balance the body.
So Dr. Carri, let me explain one little thing I learned in heaven.
Okay.
There's 4 viruses that 90% of the population have.
Okay, I got my pen. I'm ready.
Okay. It's herpes.
Yeah.
Or shingles.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
It's human papillomavirus, HPV.
Yeah.
Epstein-Barr virus. And 60% of people have what's called Lyme disease.
Yes.
So I've done a lot of research with 25,000 people since I got my accident. And I work with frequencies to see what's going on in people's bodies. And it keeps coming up, the same issues. And those same issues will lower the vibration. Now, what does the HPV do? It'll give you an abnormal pap smear. And the other thing I learned about is that women should not use tampons that are plastic applicators. So what happened was, when they pour the plastic, they pour it around the cotton. And then you insert it into you, and all the chemicals from the plastic you're inserting into yourself. And that's why there's a lot of abnormal pap smears. Something silly like that can cause issues.
I never thought about that, but that makes sense now that you say that. Yeah.
So you want to have cardboard applicators or use the old style Kotex. Because you don't want to be inserting chemicals into yourself.
And then what about Lyme disease? Because actually where I practice here in Ottawa, Ontario, this is just, this part of the country is just a hotbed for Lyme disease. I just got a patient test results back yesterday that she tested positive for Lyme disease. What can you say about that?
I've seen about 300 cases of Lyme disease, and the only way to cure Lyme disease is not through antibiotics. Because what happens is, Lyme is very smart. Most bacteria and viruses are smart.
Yes.
They want to survive.
Scary
right?
smart. Yes. They do everything for survival. Yeah.
Even a parasite. Parasites have a 28-day incubation period, right?
Yeah.
So you take the wormwood for 28 days, right? You can't go more than 28 days. You have to stop it because you want to wait for the newborns to hatch then. Because you can't kill them till they're born. So you want to do 28 days on, 20 days off, 20 days on, because that gets the cycle going. Make sense?
Yes.
And what Lyme disease does, we have a lot of bacteria in our bodies, a lot. From what happens is, this is how the whole line of sickness comes in. We get an immunization when we're a kid, which has mercury and metals and chemicals, and also the virus, whatever is in it. That gets into our body. And then the metal gets attached to fungus, which we breathe or take in from foods. So now the fungus and the metals, when they're together, they produce a bacteria. And that bacteria is what gets into the body. And when the bacteria starts to get out of control, then you get inflammation. And inflammation is the cause of all disease. Then if you're having sugar, then you're feeding the fungus. And then now you got just fungus, you got candida, and you got molds, and you got a whole slew of different funguses. So when that happens, the bacteria gets out of control. And now you come across and get bit by a tick, which you really don't need, but you do. And then the Lyme disease comes in with the spirochete bacteria, and also that attaches to the other bacteria. So when you take a prescription of intravenous antibiotics, the Lyme disease is so smart that it runs and hides behind the other bacteria. So while you're getting the treatment, you're killing the frontline bacteria and not the real cause of the symptom, which is a Lyme. And then 6 weeks later, the Lyme's back again because you didn't kill it. Interesting, right?
Yeah, and this is why patients typically have these symptoms that wax and wane.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so there's so much that I want to keep asking you, but we're starting to run low on time. I wanted to go back to the beginning. You said, at the very beginning, you said about hearing and feeling the vibration of the ohm.
Uh-huh.
And then you said you could smell frankincense.
Yes.
Is there any importance to those two things?
Okay, the ohm, what that does is your vibration increases from that. And frankincense gives a higher vibration too. So I take a couple of drops of frankincense every day because it raises your vibration. And what I was told in heaven is that when the three wise men came to see Jesus, who, by the way, weren't really three wise men, they were Archangel Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, disguised as wise men. They brought frankincense and myrrh and put it on baby Jesus to increase his frequency. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, the reason I asked about the frankincense in particular, it reminded me about 12 years ago or so, my father-in-law ended up with a brain tumor. And when you mentioned that frankincense, it brought me back to that time where, I was trying to find different answers for him to try and help him. And I remember stumbling upon frankincense, and I had the frankincense essential oil, and I had it in a diffuser, and we just had it going in the house. And then I was thinking, why did I do that? And so again, it's so funny, Tommy. It's all about just the remembering part.
It's intuition that we hear and know, but we don't know we don't know why we do things.
That
like
it goes back
Sinatra,
to the frequency.
There's a whole different thing too.
Yeah, frequency and raising the energy.
That's the key to living healthy. Now, there's another chapter of the book. It's called The Life Force of Us, which is the vital force. Now, vital force is very important because what ages us, what I learned is that the mitochondrial cell of the body gets toxic.
Yes.
And when that happens, you start to age. Now I'm 59 years old, and I've been working on that mitochondrial cell since I came back from heaven, and I only have one gray hair.
Did you have more gray hairs before?
Vision. I don't need glasses to see. because I realized what the mitochondria does.
Yeah.
It's so important. And when I see the mitochondria cell deficient with energy, which happened to me when I got hit by the car and I had a heart issue, that's how I met Dr. Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the reason I had a heart issue, because if I didn't have a heart issue, I never would have met him.
Yeah, I know Dr. Sinatra is, I would say, the pioneer for CoQ10 and
Yes.
heart health. And, of course, we know now that that's vitally important for the mitochondrial health.
Now, Harvard did a study. My friend Dr. Richard Becker told me this last week. He says, Tommy, I had you on my show, and I can't believe that what you learned in heaven, we just proved with Harvard study. I said, what is it? He says, they found out that antioxidants really don't make it live longer or keep you healthier. It's the mitochondria cell. I thought it was so funny.
Tommy, how can our listeners find out more about you, and where can they get a copy of your book?
Well, you can go on healthrevelationsbook.com, and when you do that, you put the receipt number in where you purchased the book, and you're going to get a free 10-minute meditation and some tips and tools on health that's not in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have Health Revelations Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we post 4 or 5 times a week different parts of the book, so you get an idea what's in the book. And then there's a couple of YouTube videos. There's one of me blessing the books, because all the books have energy in the first 100,000 covers.
Mm-hmm.
I did a prayer over it and increased the energy of them. What's going to happen when you start to read it, you're not going to put it down.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go through the heaven part, I actually wrote it that you experience the heaven with me. So it's really amazing how it came out.
Cool. Okay.
So the health revelation that's really important is we're all connected, and the vital force. So sugar is the enemy. Anyone has any health issues going, stay away from sugar, wheat, carbohydrates, because it all causes the vibration of the body to go down and causes inflammation, which leads to high cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease. Very simple, easy to do, but we take it for granted sometimes. We don't realize it, that little things help us. God made things simple. We just make them hard.
Why do we do that, Tommy?
I don't know.
Oh, that's a whole other interview, I guess.
I always tell people, it's really easy what God does for us. You just have to follow the way He did it. You know, I don't know if you get a lot of this, but I get a lot of this too. People tell me, I got to be a vegetarian. And when I tell them that being a vegetarian is not the best way to live, they look at me like I'm nuts. So I said, I have 30, 40 people I did a study with, and I use frequencies to see what's going on in the bodies. That's how I know what the truth really is.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens to a vegetarian is that they lose muscle, the heart muscle gets weak, and you lose muscle, you start to eat away your body. Because you need animal protein, fish, turkey, chicken, meat once a week. That's all I believe in it, because it has L-carnitine in it, and it's got some B's in it too that you need. But you got to have some of that protein, because it's not going to build up your muscle. You can't get it from beans. You can't get it from sprouts. And you want to stay away from sprouts, by the way, because sprouts are full of fungus.
Yeah, I was going to say mold. They tend to be moldy.
Because they water them constantly to feed them, so they're full of mold. And I mean, everything's measured with, I measure it with my equipment I have, General Vitality Life Force. The human body vibrates around 1,500 when it's healthy. But wheat is 800, sugar is 500. So if you put that into your body, you're going to lower your vibration, right?
Yeah.
But the highest vibration food of everything in the world is kale.
Really? Kale
is the most high vibration vegetable. It also detoxifies you from toxins, metal, funguses, because it has such a high vibration, which if you're at 1,500, you take something 3,500, it's going to raise your vibration. Mm-hmm. Raising your vibration gets rid of low frequency toxins, and then you get healthier. So kale should be in people's diet every day, at least one serving.
Fantastic.
They make great chips, too, for like a snack. You bake them in the oven, put a little olive oil and some salt, and you can have them as a snack, and they're not going to hurt you.
Fantastic. Tommy, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I just want you to understand that this thing is real simple. Love yourself. When one loves oneself, the universe will love you back. And that's where we go wrong. We waver on loving ourselves. And also, don't think that you made a mistake. Think of it as a life lesson. If all the things that I did wrong in my life, I would just not be able to function, right? If you think about it.
Right.
But I know they weren't mistakes. They were life lessons to get me to a higher divine self and to learn different situations before the situation comes along that might be worse than that situation. So don't beat yourself up. Love yourself. And know that God loves you unconditionally and that nothing in this world is impossible with your thoughts and actions.
Tommy, this has been such a great interview. You've helped me remember so many things. I really appreciate it on a personal level. And I know our listeners also appreciate it as well.
Well, thanks so much for having me, and I just want to bless everybody that's listening today. And to remember, you have the power to change. Nobody else can do that but you.
All right, that wraps up this very special episode of the Functional Medicine Radio Show with Tommy Rosa. And I want to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. And I'd like to invite you back next week for another episode of the Functional Medicine Radio Show. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Carri Drzyzga, the Functional Medicine Doc. Have a great week, everyone.
You've been listening to the Functional Medicine Radio Show with your host, Dr. Carri Drzyzga, known internationally as the Functional Medicine Doc. Dr. Carri is committed to helping patients find the root cause of their health problems and fixing the cause with natural treatments so they can feel normal again. Dr. Carri is the founder of Functional Medicine Ontario and is the author of the hit book, Reclaim Your Energy and Feel Normal Again. Please tell your friends about the Functional Medicine Radio Show, and we'll see you next week with more from Dr. Carri.